All right, thank you.
Look like you're ready to go to court somewhere. Greetings, Roundup homies. Good evening, good afternoon, whenever this video gets to you. It's an honor to be with you today as we talk about squatters' rights. We're talking about people hanging out in other people's houses. We're talking about people getting arrested. It's just crazy. Laws changing.
Yeah.
Different municipalities are really trying to focus in on this stuff. And what better way to do it? Don't hear from me. Let's talk to an attorney that specializes in this stuff, and they see these type of dealings on a daily basis. So we got Jeremy Mason with us today. What's up, Jeremy?
How you guys doing? How you doing? What's up, Chris?
Good to see you again, brother.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure, for sure.
Yeah, so I want to get into this thing. I've been seeing all my homies. I got a ton of homies in New York. I got a ton of homies in Florida, and even for me,
Yeah.
I never. Well, we just meeting each other. I had somebody move in one of my houses in the past, Jeremy.
Wow.
I had
Wow.
it for rent.
So yeah, you feeling it for sure. Yeah, you felt this before.
I have, yep. And I'm like,
Yeah.
who can help me? No one can help me. Like the magistrate couldn't help me. The police couldn't help me. It was like, what?
Yeah.
It's crazy out here.
Yeah. You think it would be such a simple thing, right? It's not that simple, man. It's really, really sticky with these issues.
It's
For
really
sure.
sticky. So Jeremy opened my eyes to why we even have squatters' rights. Before I talked to Jeremy, I'm like, squatter, so and so, get him out of there. Get him out. But then as I was
Yeah.
talking to him, Jeremy opened up my eyes to a reason that we could possibly benefit from these type of rules and regulations. So I want him to share this stuff. Let's start from the back a little bit. Tell us about you a little bit, Jeremy. Who you are, what you do, and then let's get to this.
Yeah, attorney J.C. Mason. I practice real estate law from the
Where at?
Virginia area. I
Virginia.
practice in Virginia area, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton
Yes.
Roads. Yeah, so I know about what we call adverse possession, but to people that aren't too versed with the law, it would be considered a squatter's rights. So I like to give a background to it to kind of give the logic behind it. This is an old law. It's been around for a long time. So think of like the Wild Wild West, colonial times, whatever. This is kind of where it started, where people would go off to sea wherever for long periods of time, 10 plus 20 years, and then somebody moves into wherever they live at, right? So you're like, oh no, nah, you can't do that. You can't do that. But the flip side to that is say you're gone for this long period of time and the house is just sitting there growing weeds, grass is growing, things are looking bad, blighted property, almost to the logic of an HOA person. They're like, what's going on here? So somebody takes advantage of that and moves into the place, but they keep it well and it's flowing throughout the community. So, but you can't, it's not like you're a squatter to the point where you're hiding in there. You have to be open and notoriously. Like an example I like to say is like you're going back and forth to the mailbox, you're leaving, going to work, coming home, the neighbors see you, you're waving, you're not hiding, you're not just there literally like nighttime comes, nobody knows you're there. So you have to be open and notoriously stay in there. That's the first thing. And
Open
then
and notoriously staying there.
correct,
Open and
correct.
notoriously. So you just coming and going as you at will. You're not trying to hide it.
Not at all. Not at all. That's a very key part of it. That's something that would help out in any litigation. Like, well, did the people know you were there? If you can say yes to that, then your chances of winning that battle will increase tremendously. If you can say no, we didn't even know he was there. Nobody saw him there. He would come in like 8 p.m. and leave at 5 a.m. or whatever you were doing to the
Hmm.
point to where nobody saw you were there. But if you're actually living there, got to know the neighbors, another important part in a lot of states is paying the taxes. And
Oh
so
God.
if you're doing all of that for and again a certain period of time. I believe New York is 10 years. I think Florida 7 years. Virginia is
Okay.
6 years. So every place has a different type of statute of limitation or prescription period for where you have to be living open and notoriously. And if you meet those qualifications, you'll be surprised. You come back from your voyage 10, 15 years and you're like, I'm going home. And you got a whole family living in there. And you're like, get out. And they're like, nah, we live here. And you're like, no, you don't. So then now somebody has to talk about this, and then come to find out you actually lost your home just by not maintaining and keeping it up. So we don't
Wow.
like we don't like blighted property. Nobody wants to see blighted property, so things of that nature. So you want to keep real estate flowing throughout commerce, and that's the logic behind the whole squatter adverse possession law. But a lot of states are trying to make it harder for these individuals as well too, from what I've been researching.
Let's back up a little bit, JC. So if you're just joining us, we're here talking about squatters' rights, adverse possession, and what you need to know with this because this stuff is. I promise you, it's a real deal. I had my
Yeah,
property for rent one time. I showed up. There were some boxes in the living room. I put the boxes on the street. Like, who the hell is this? A couple hours later, I showed up. Some people were there with a U-Haul truck moving into my place. Okay, so
yeah,
this stuff really happens. So JC, the attorney, is going to help us understand and just unpack it, and just so we can just get a grasp of this.
yeah,
How does this
yeah.
stuff happen?
I mean, it could happen. Like for instance, somebody's in the military, and they're gone for a period of time, or you're lucky enough to have multiple residences, and you just have property, and it's just sitting there, and somebody
Mhm.
eventually figures out that this property is open and available. They go in there, they set up shop, and clearly to everybody that's looking, I'm living here, nobody's stopping me, and I'm paying. And then on the other part of it, I'm paying taxes on it. I'm paying bills here, and boom, I'm here for 6, 7 years, 10 years, and now this is my house, this is my property. And the time limits might sound long or short to whoever's listening, but that's an important part. But that's relative. In the 6 years can go by like this, 7 years can go by like this. You never know if you're living somewhere else out of the country, and there you go. Your property has been swindled from you, for lack of another better term.
So what about what I'm seeing now where we got vacant properties for sale or for rent? It could be three,
Okay.
4, 5, 6 months, JC. And people are moving up in these things. You seen the news, man. It's just everywhere.
Yeah, and then those are where I would say that the individual who's the owner would have a stronger argument. Clearly the property's here for rent. We're trying to sell it. The individual moved in throughout this opportunity for a short period of time, and we're just asking him to leave. He's not supposed to be here at all. Some would say this is not open and notorious. He's not receiving mail there. He's not coming and going to work. He's literally just waiting until the sun goes down, and then he's in there posted up in that vacant property. And that's different. That's what we do not want, because now you're getting into aspects of what could happen in there. There's no electricity, there's no water sometimes, and a lot of people are in there, doing what they need to do in regards to like starting fires to keep warm. That's
I
one thing
seen
that
it.
happens. And
Hmm.
then people are, using the places for drug houses and things of that nature. And that's what we don't want to happen. So that's easily can be restricted. That's unlawful entry right there. But the
Unlawful
other,
entry.
but that whole schematic can turn differently if that person is able to actually function like a functioning member of society in that property over this
That's
period
what
of
I want to
time.
get to.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
I want to
that's
get
that's
to.
that's the shift in the focus right there.
You
So
see?
yeah, it's the time frames.
Well, what I'm seeing, JC, and y'all get your questions in round up, homies. All my members. If you're not a member yet, all the members get questions answered first. What I'm seeing is people, and I've seen this happen to some of my friends in the game. Somebody house empty. And, I've had houses send empty, JC. I'm gonna be honest with you, for 6 months because can't find the right tenant.
Yeah.
Somebody might move in and they did cut a utility on. They do have a bill in their name and they can show that to the police when they show up. I just think that's where it gets real funky.
Yeah, it gets dicey, and a lot of these things, as most of y'all may know, is that it comes down when you get a court order. I mean, maybe at that very moment when the police arrive, this comes a civil issue, and the cops aren't able to necessarily evict them because that's maybe what it turns into.
Let's talk
But
about that.
the,
Let's talk about the
yeah,
JC because that was
yeah,
my situation. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, at that point, they may develop rights for that period of time. What I'm saying is the end game, they don't stand a chance. But in that very moment,
At that
I think that
moment,
yeah, at that moment, because cops don't want to get into these civil issues. I mean, you could walk up and say, "This is my home." You can show them the deed, you can show them whatever. But this person is sitting here with a bill to kind of show I've been living here. And then that becomes an issue where the cop most likely is going to say, the officer is going to say, "Look, this is a civil issue. You need to file something with the courts, get a writ or a court order saying that this person needs to be removed from the premises." And that's just like if you have a roommate. I mean, you have somebody say, "Hey, Chris, can I sleep on your couch, or can I get this room? I don't know, a month, or maybe even for a week." But that week turns into 6 months. Now you're like, "Hey, you got to go, dog." So a lot of the logic behind it is that we don't want to get us into being involved with self-help, because the self-help issue causes so many more issues. So
is
when it
self-help,
comes,
is that defined somewhere, JC?
well, it's like a unwritten rule. I mean, it's not like a defined law, but that's what it turns into. Like if you're taking at your own liberty to evict somebody, where do you think that's going to
Oh,
lead to? Like if you're like, "Hey, you told me I was going to stay for 3 months, um, I need 6 months, and I'll give you 6 months." Now 6 months turn into a year, and you're like, "You know what? You're my friend, whatever, but you got to go." So now I change the locks on your room, put your stuff
Mm,
outside. So what do you think that turns into, where that goes next? So that's kind of where that happens when somebody moves in to that vacant property, is
that's
there for a
nasty.
month, and then they have these bills, and you're like, well, you can't live here. So then that automatically, the natural flow of that will most likely turn physical or bad, one way or another. If you're uprooting an individual from where they're staying, even if they have no rights at all, but we don't want us, when I mean us, I mean like citizens, taking that liberty to remove somebody from that property, even though you may have all the rights in the world, and you do. But the thing is, you got to get that court order,
Unbelievable.
because you want to get the man involved, the sheriff involved, but not a sheriff. He'll do that happily. He will happily remove whoever from wherever with that court order, and there's not going to be no ifs, ands, and buts about it. But when we get involved with it, me meaning citizens, then that's when where the issue becomes sticky, because what are you going to do? Pull them, grab them, change the locks? I mean, that becomes very adverse.
Yeah,
No pun intended, adverse possession, but that becomes very adverse. It becomes very adverse.
people ain't fighting no more, man. They shooting and
And then there,
blasting
and
and
then there you go. Now you're shooting. Now instead of retaliation, it's gunshots, because you stayed on in my room or my property, and I want you off of it, and you're not listening to me. So I gotta take a tactic. Then you're gonna retaliate. So we just want to get the courts involved to remove these people, which might sound like, man, that's messed up. It's my property, but at the end of the day, we all want to keep the peace. That's what it comes down to. We want to do our best to keep the peace, so we don't have these other laws that overflow into these things, which could turn criminal. Yeah, and nobody really wants that at the end of the day.
so why can't the police help us owners, JC? Break that down for me because I
Okay, so all right. So for instance, and this is me just kind of playing that situation out. You're the owner, you call, you drive by, hey, somebody's living in my home. They're not supposed to be there. 911. Okay, boom. Please get there, even if they're on your side. Knock on the door. However, they can't just bust in. I mean, maybe you open the door for them. Whatever happens, they get in there,
so if they don't open
and
the door, we got to open the door. They can't. If the people that live there or they're there don't open the door, the cops can't. They can't even go in.
exactly, because now we're getting to other areas of law. That's Fourth Amendment rights. It's like it's not a they don't have a warrant, so like you can't just bust the door down because you say so. Like they got to really have exigent circumstances. Can they see something in there happening? But because imagine if you were wrong. What if you were just trying to get back at somebody, and you tell them that for whatever reason these documents aren't legitimate? You're just saying whatever, and now the cop believes you. He goes in there, drags somebody out, and you're wrong. now
Wow,
now where do we end up? So
I never even thought about that.
when we get into before we get into all that, let's go talk to the judge.
It's
So the judge can
crazy.
make that decision, and everybody's safe. Because once you start getting into that, I mean, that's along the lines of potential anarchy, because now again it goes to self-help, even if you get the cop to do it, because the cop is an enforcer. He's not the decision maker, he's the enforcer. So you have him enforcing what you want him to do, and you very well could be wrong, even though
Here,
you're right.
here's what stops my brain regarding trying to understand and just comprehend. JC, if I rent a
Yeah.
rental car,
Hmm.
if I don't bring it back, it automatically by default goes to criminal. I'm stealing
Well, there's
property.
there's like unauthorized use. That's like the middle part of that. But if budget calls you and they're like, "Can you bring the car back?" and you're like, "Okay, I'll bring it back." All right. Couple weeks go by, unauthorized use of the vehicle.
Mhm.
Then they say they call again, and you still don't bring it back. They're like, "Okay, well that's just grand larceny. You stole the car."
That's
Because
my point. What's the
yeah,
difference
yeah.
between stealing access to a car and stealing access to a piece of real estate,
I
JC?
mean,
And I'm
and
not
that's
putting
yeah.
you.
No, 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 no. Yeah, that's a
I
very
just don't
logical
get it.
question. Well, because again, we got to understand the value of real estate. I mean,
It's
it's
way
just. I
more than
mean,
a car.
I know, but the thing is, it's way more than a car. But it's immobile. Like it's right there. It's a piece of land. Somebody can live on it, and there's a bit different type of ownership value to that. Like the car is more so like clear as day. I own this. This is the lease or whatever to that vehicle, title to the vehicle, but I'm renting it out. This is the rental agreement. That is like it goes back to adverse possession, about keeping property moving. And again, this is my interpretation of that, and I understand that that is a very valid question to that point. But to what I understand is that the real estate is going to be that much more of an issue, because it's just different. I mean, it's different from a vehicle. I mean, and multiple people can live in this home. Families are living in this home. They're coming and going from this home. Whereas the vehicle, you hop in, you drive there, you drive back, and this is my car. And now we're saying you stole my car. And then, but then again, to your point, or to your example, you still got to get the court involved, though. I mean, you're still getting the court involved. You're not just saying this unauthorized possession. You could be they're being charged. So they're being charged the same way you go down to the courthouse and you got to file this eviction or whatever you need to file. They're still involved in the court though. They're not
Mhm.
saying that budget can go pull up on you and snatch you out their car and get it back. So they're still getting the court involved. If
Got
that
it.
makes any sense to you.
I got it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
man. I just feel like us poorly. I don't know. I feel like landlords we get such a bad rap, and we just people trying to work within the
Yeah.
system. JC,
I
we
mean,
not,
but yeah, and most of the times, the little person, they either way is going to work out for the landlord if they have the rights to it. But they're trying to, in that very moment, try to make things minimal conflict in that moment. Because once you go to the courthouse, it's pretty much done. They don't want self help to be involved because the ultimate bottom line is the peace. People want to just increase the peace
got
the
it.
best way we can. The best way we can.
So we got somebody in the property. Y'all get your questions in the chat there. We got somebody in the property. They have a water bill. What are you recommending as an attorney, JC, to possibly get possession of your property back?
Easily. If they're not if you don't want to get the courts involved, obviously you can post something, send them something, asking them to be removed in exchange for whatever. Even if you want to go that road,
That's one
if
way. You got to pay him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one way. Cash for
That's
keys.
one.
If you want to keep the court out of it to get them out of there peacefully, you can do that. But if they're not gonna move on their own, you need to get the sheriff, which means you got to get a judge to give you that possession to get the sheriff involved because it's too sticky, it's too risky, and ultimately you open yourself up to wrongful eviction type situations when you do
They could
stuff
be
like
suing
that.
you.
Exactly. Because and then they're in your property and they could turn around and flip it and sue you because you evicted them wrongfully or you employed self help. One could
It's
say
crazy.
it
This is
is
the most
crazy
insane.
and it's crazy. But again, my thing is they just want to increase the peace. They don't want to have people out here circumventing the court system and literally dragging people out of homes left and right because this is my home and you're not supposed to be here. And I think
Help
that's
us,
that's
Lord.
the real that's the real crutch to it, right? It
Help
is. It
us.
is. And it's not the best thing, but I think when you think about the global and the bigger thing that we're trying to get at here, I think it works because ultimately, if you have people out here doing their own thing when it comes to that, it's going to turn bad.
No doubt.
Yeah, it will turn
Especially
bad.
for people like me. Yeah, they gonna
I
look they
mean,
could look like me.
I'm just saying, people get frustrated, tempers get flowing, and things start getting thrown, punches getting thrown, and whatever else is getting thrown.
Yeah,
We
you
don't
know.
want that.
Well, JC, I'm just in my mind, I'm thinking of all of our landlords that have mortgages, one,
Yeah,
$2,000 a month. And if we have to evict somebody, we're talking 2, 3, sometimes 4 months. And
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
then obviously your next step is to say, "Oh, I lost this money because of you, whatever. I want to sue you." But 9 times out of 10,
oh shit,
you just get your possession. You're not going to get any money back from them because they're
nah,
already down bad in the first place. So exactly,
they
and
wouldn't
and
be
it's
there.
tough.
Yeah, they wouldn't even be there.
They wouldn't even be there. You never know, but they wouldn't even be there. They wouldn't even be there,
Wow,
man.
man. Adverse possession. Okay, I see somebody. Kerry, thanks for hanging out with us. Get questions in real quickly, y'all, and make sure you hit that thumbs up button down at the bottom. And if you want to continue supporting the channel, we appreciate it, helping us with our commitment to raising your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Joining one of our memberships is right down here. It's going to cost you nothing but a large Starbucks coffee a month. And it helps me to keep on getting people like JC on here to help us to want to talk to me. Wisdom, shoot us a direct message. Chris buys houses at Gmail. What in your mind? Oh, we got a question here. Kyrie, what's the difference in real estate? Oh, the difference he's talking about with the car. Car is under lease.
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit. I
Yeah.
think, like I was saying, either way, it still goes back through the court. You're going to be charged either civilly or criminally, and then if you don't turn it in, there's going to be a warrant for you sooner or later.
But that's
Then
a
the
warrant
police.
for arrest, though, right?
Yeah. That's because that now that turns criminal. This is still it's
It
still
ain't right.
civil.
So why
I
can't I have
mean,
a criminal with my daggone house
well,
then? That's why.
talk to your legislator about that. Talk to your legislator about why is this not considered criminal. Maybe that would deter it, but I think it will be inconsistent with adverse possession because we do want to keep the land flowing, the real estate flowing. So if I was risking a charge and you're gone for 8 months or 8 years, it just kind of conflicts. But to your point, I mean that's a very valid point. I mean, why is that not criminal? You
So
know?
we got an Instagram question, Harrison Roberts. What's the difference between a burglar and a squatter, JC?
That's a very good question. So, all right, that's a really actually good question. So, a burglar, you're going to be entering the property and it's not your property and you're in there, but the intent part is though, that's where it is the intent. You're intending to go in there to commit a crime, whether it's stealing something. I mean, I guess the burglary part is just the theft. So, you're intending to go in there to steal something. Your burglary, I mean, your classic burglar with the thing wrapped around his eyes. He's going in there, breaking in. He's trying to find something valuable and leave with it. The squatter ultimately is could be breaking in. That's the breaking and entering, but now he's there to live. So I mean, if you want to flip that and say there's a breaking and entering, or what we say unlawful or trespassing or unlawful entry, I mean those are available to an individual to be charged criminally, but the squatter definition comes into the amount of time they're there, and then now it's not like maybe a day or two. That day or two turns into months, and then now they're there officially because I believe most states are going to say if you're there for 30 days, then you do start getting these certain rights. So I think
Hmm.
it's the period of time in between where it's now okay, you've been there a month and nobody said nothing. So now I'm a tenant. I'm a
Wow,
holdover tenant
that is a
because of that
tenant.
time frame. So
So
yeah, if
what
you
need to be
gifted them
called?
maybe 3 days, go ahead.
So squatter really could be just a tenant. I mean, are we
Yeah,
under the definition? Because you're an attorney, y'all
absolutely.
do this definition stuff. Like
Absolutely, you get those rights because again, they want this flowing real estate. They want to keep it flowing. So if you're the landlord and you haven't checked on your property in 30 days, hey, you got a new tenant, buddy. You got to go evict them if you want them out.
Hmm.
Don't just go in there and change the lock spit. Now you're in trouble because you wrongfully evict the person that broke in. And it's wild the logic behind it, but if you think down to the ultimate goal, then it does make sense. It does make sense.
Okay, Samuel says, what are the, let's just say, I guess you're in Virginia. What are going to be the court fees that we're looking at to get one of these people out,
Uh,
JC?
I could
Good
say if
question.
you go file one of these writs, most places I think they may range between 100 to $50 for court fees. If you do it on your own, I mean, I think that most of the time in these situations, you may not need an attorney to help you. I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't. Obviously, when you deal with a lawyer, it makes it a lot smoother, easier. They
Faster. Yeah.
handle all the so it's real clean. But if you go in there on your own, just to say, look, he was there, I'm evicting him. I don't see any judge that's not going to go with what you're saying if he's there and he's not supposed to be there. And clearly, like it's your apartment, you can show. It's your house, you can show. I don't see any judge going against that.
Well, see, I don't think the reason I'm doing this today is because I don't necessarily think the problem is us eventually proving that we're the owner and
Yeah,
eventually getting them out. That's like, I know
yeah,
I can do that.
yeah.
My problem is all of the landlords out there that have these daggone mortgages, yo, and I know they're getting killed because I've been there. You got
Yeah,
2-3 thousand a month, whack after month. You could have 10 grand gone, JC.
yeah, yeah, and that's why I would say to anybody in that position, move as fast as possible because the back and forth with them, if they know anything, they know as long as
About
they
the
staying in
courts.
there, yeah, they know as long as they staying there, you can't move them on your own until you get that eviction. Though you can say whatever you want to, and if they know, I mean, you might could put a threatening letter together. You could maybe even knock on the door and say, "Look, this is my, you need to go." I mean, all of that could possibly work, but if they're hip to the game, they're just gonna wait until they get that eviction notice or get that writ of possession where the sheriff says you got 5 days to leave. Then they
Mhm.
know, all right, the jig is up now. They know then the jig is up. But in between then, I would say you got to move as quick as possible because the longer they stay, the more roots they're growing in your home, in your house.
Yeah, that's so deep. I've thought about having like associates stay in my properties while I'm trying to help them out while I'm trying to find a tenant.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
every time I'm like, I'm just not gonna do it. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna do
So
it.
I looked into Florida. Florida is actually they're on all of our side because naturally, deep down inside, it's not right for you to sit in somebody else's home. So Florida wants to enact something to where they're saying, okay, look, you're not supposed to be here. Clearly, I'm telling you to leave. And now the caveat to them is if you never were a tenant before and you don't have any type of lease pending or prior to any of this, then yeah, you are considered a squatter and get out right now. So
If you
they're
don't
just
have a
like,
lease,
yeah, if you, so then you could take that self help angle because now it's their feel they're on your side, Chris. They're like Florida's like Florida's already a very I don't want a crazy place to for lack
they'll
of a
shoot
better
you down there
expression.
real quick.
So they're doubling down on that and saying, look, you know you're wrong. We asked you to leave. You're not supposed to be here, and you don't have any type of paperwork documentation which validates you needing to be here. Yeah, that person, if this law goes through, which is what it's looking like, they can be like, yo, you need to leave, you need to get out. Self help. That's self help. So I'm sure there's going to be some stories down there about this stuff. Landlord is taking the whole situation in their own hands and getting these people up out of their homes because they're giving them the power to do that. They really are.
So I want to give my roundup homies some nuggets to prevent this. JC, you think? What if we told the utility company? I got this from my man Welby that we
Yeah.
have to we have to authorize verbally over the phone, authorize any utilities to be turned on when
I
someone
mean,
moves in.
I think that's a good safeguard. I guess obviously you're brainstorming this, but what if? I mean, how do you know you're talking to the owner? How do you know that that's the actual owner? I mean, I guess you have to verify whatever, and
Well,
then you
you
can
can
verify X.
put your
Yeah,
utility company,
yeah,
put the utility
yeah,
company on notice. Like, this is my number. This I'm the owner. Call a utility company up. Look, I'm the owner. This my number. Or you saying it could be a fraudulent? Just calling the utility company up.
yeah. I mean, you never know. I mean, there's the
Oh,
workarounds and
darn!
all types of things. I'm not saying that that's not a
Yeah,
bad
think about
safeguard,
that.
but then again, now you're putting the utility company in a position to make those type of executive decisions as well too, because how do they
Wow,
know that you're not going through a battle with the owner and they're supposed to actually be there, and then now they're turning down money because we don't know who to listen to.
that's
I'm
sticky, man.
again, yeah, it gets very sticky, and
Darn,
a lot of these people that are conniving enough to even be in that position will maximize whatever they got to do to make sure they're not homeless. It's really like life or death at that point to some people.
well, I'm thinking in my JC, so much to unpack. But I'm just
Yeah, that's a
thinking if
lot.
they're there, because the people, let me tell you, when the people that moved in mine, they had a lease, JC. They
Okay.
had a lease, dog. I'm like, who is this lease? I don't know who these people are. I
See,
didn't do. So it's
that's what
like,
I'm saying. It's really yeah. Look, imagine if you got to sleep underneath the light pole, or if I put something together, I got this house. I mean,
no
what are your
doubt.
options? What are your options? You're
Yeah,
gonna do
no
whatever
doubt.
you got to do in that point, and that's kind of what, and that's what everybody in that position is doing. They're squatting because they have nowhere else to go, literally.
Sandy says you can put passcodes with your utilities company. That's a good one there. I like that one,
Yeah,
Sandy.
I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, you
That's a good
definitely
one.
could do that. You could do
That
that,
is a good
and I
one there.
think that would help. The only thing is, I just feel as if you're getting into those decision making positions as a utility company, like how does the utility company know that this person doesn't have a valid reason to be there, or they were there before for whatever long the owner left, and then they're sitting there and they want to put the lights in their name now, whatever. I'm not saying that
Whatever it is.
yeah, I'm not saying that that's not a way to go, but now you have to think about the next step to that. Because if say that they're a roommate with you, and but you're the owner, and you go to Japan for 2 years, but now they're there, and they're like, we want to put the lights in our name because you stopped paying it because you're in Japan, and then they got to call you, and you're like, no, they're supposed to leave, but they're living there, and now the lights are off, and everybody's like in a crazy stuck situation because of now you got to get the passcode to turn the lights on, but the owner
Hmm.
and the roommate have an issue that the utility company has to make a decision based off of that. And I
That's
think that's
nasty.
putting the utility company in a bad position because they could be wrong. Now they get sued because they're listening to the owner, and it's just all bad. I mean, again, those are good brainstorming
Capitalism.
options, but that's what it really what it comes down to.
Capitalism.
Yeah,
My
it really what it's come down to. Florida's getting into that though.
I'm
they
hoping that
getting
they on the one side, I'm like, my community suffers the most all the time.
hmm
On the other side, I'm like, I'm trapped as an entrepreneur in this. European
Yeah.
capitalistic system. I'm like, where the hell do we draw the line? I don't even know which way to
Yeah.
go.
But again, I think everybody's trying though. I think everybody that's really on the side of writing the eviction notices and the landlords and all of them, we're just trying to do the best that we can because the person that's the squatter ultimately is the wrong person. We all can see that clearly. They're in the
Yeah.
wrong, but when does that in the wrong change to now they're in the right because it's been so long? I think that's what
Good
the
point.
line is starting to get me at. They're in the right now because they've been there so long they might be helping out this property,
They might
cutting the
be.
lawn. Yeah,
They
they're making
might
sure
be.
things stay up right and everything goes well. I think somebody else has a question, which is a good one. What if there's a no trespassing sign?
Yeah,
And I think,
black suit.
yeah, I think you are trespassing, but I think it's like, well, when is trespassing turned into nah, I got rights? I think that's the thing. Like, yeah, clearly you're not supposed to be there, but I've been
They're
there
asking about
for
the signs. Do the signs help at all, Jeremy?
I mean, it would help. I mean, that's gonna help your argument I mean, it's gonna help your argument at the moment. Maybe even the cop sees it and says, "Hey, the owner says you're not supposed to be here. There's no trespassing sign." And now because of that actual one sign, maybe the cop is on your side. I mean, that I think that does help though. I mean, it really does help because that's clearly saying you're not supposed to be here, even if you think you should be here. So I think that would help. It would help.
Samuel says, what does it cost to service the courts? What is it going to cost to hire an attorney for somebody like you to deal with this on his
I
behalf, I'm
mean, those
presuming?
those costs vary. I mean, it all depends like where and what's the details. But I would say anywhere between maybe $1,500 to $3,500, maybe 5,000, depending how sticky it gets. Somewhere
Oh,
in that
God.
range. Maybe as low as 500. I mean, again, it
Woo.
all depends on what's going on because it does take some time. But some of these issues can, like you say, get sticky. So now. Now we're just not going there to get evicted. Now we got to work through how long have they been there, why were they there? It's like it's all types of things that could happen.
Well, Jeremy, I had a friend of mine who let a family member stay there, and then my friend lost his job. He's like, "You got to
Wow.
go, family member." So it really got nasty. I mean,
Oh
cops
yeah,
were
yeah,
called. It was
yeah.
just crazy.
I mean that's just how it goes. I mean we're human. I gotta be homeless now. I mean, like think that's a scary feeling. Like that's a very survival thought that you're getting kicked
Yeah,
into that mindset right then and there. It's a
that's true.
survival at that moment versus the other person's inconvenience. So it gets deep like that.
So, word to the wise says maybe the best thing we should do is put cameras up, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think now, yeah, because now you're on it. Because you got the camera, you're looking at your phone. Oh, they're not supposed to be there. So now they're only there for hours. And then you can say, look, if somebody's in my home, can you come there right now? They're not even settled. You clearly see that they just broke in here. The door is messed up. So I think that would alleviate a lot. And then you could put things into motion a lot faster because now they are a burglar because we don't know what they're doing in there. Now they
Got it.
are trespassing. Now we're in the moment as opposed to 3 weeks down the line. They don't park their car there. They baby got the crib upstairs and all type. So we're way past. I think that's actually a very, very good way to kind of circumvent all of this because it's real time now. We're not talking about when you find out.
Yeah.
Once it happens. Like you got the ring camera. Who is this at the? Oh, what are they doing? They oh what? Now you see them and they're sitting down. What? Oh nah. Then you get on the phone right then and there, and there's no discrepancies with that. I think that's actually very helpful,
I
extremely helpful.
basically, what I'm getting from you talking is we need to be proactive and we need to move fast if it does happen.
Absolutely, because the longer, literally seconds, minutes, days that go past, it's like a tree. The roots are getting growing longer and longer by the
Mm,
second, and then when you get to the 30-day mark, that tree is locked into that position. Now you got some major problems because the tree is locked in. So then after that, even longer and longer, the tree starts getting more and more roots, and the roots keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper down. That's
mhm.
what you want to avoid. Yeah, if you got the camera, that tree is not even doing anything. That weed has been cut from the beginning. So yeah, that's a good point. I like that.
Toomry says in Atlanta, we're experiencing phony LLCs pirating the rental listing and posting it on social media. The renters are actually the victim, and the phony LLC isn't criminally prosecuted.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a lot going on. I mean, look, everybody's trying these workarounds, and let me make sure I understand this right. So
So it looks like
Atlanta,
they're
they have experienced phony LLCs pirating the rental listings and posting it on
so the
social media.
LLC, some fake LLC is taking the listing and posting it themselves that they don't own the property.
Wow.
And the renters, so
Yeah.
they're renting out the property to this. That's what happened to me. So they're writing a check to this phony LLC and they're sending a security deposit. That's exactly what happened to me,
And
Tony.
then do they ever get to move in, or is just the money's just gone? It's just like once the deposit sent, it's just gone, or do they get to actually move in and then they have to deal with that part down the line, or?
Well, the problem is whether they move in or not, they're giving the money to this phony
Oh yeah, yeah,
LLC.
yeah. From the to the run. I mean, that's yeah,
So that's
that's the
wow.
scam and the land of the scammers, boy. That's a deep scam right there.
Well, see, the thing with this, Jeremy, is the owner has no idea what's going on. So when he gets there, just like me, the dude had a lease. It's gonna be the same thing here. They had the people that moved in, they had a lease. So it's not like they're maliciously trying to harm me. They don't even know that they're being scammed themselves.
Man, yeah,
That's a good
that's
one right
deep.
there,
I
Tony.
mean, and it's a good one. I mean, again, like with
Wow.
these things, man, people are finding workarounds left and right, and as we evolve as a culture, people are going to get more and more smart. I mean, I think that's why we have these new laws coming in to circumvent stuff like that, because that's amazing that somebody would think that deep into that,
Man,
and
there's
then
something.
they send the deposit, and now somebody's living there, and they think they're doing everything in the right way. That's wild. And then that person
Mhm.
would start to develop their own rights because they're in there and they're in the facility.
Yep.
Wow, wow, wow,
Jamon
wow,
says,
wow.
yep, that's what's happening in West Georgia too.
Yeah, that's amazing that's that one above me. I didn't even heard of that. That's wild. And then I think now you have to even be just aware of that as a renter. Now you gotta, are we giving this money to the right person? Like that's
That's right.
amazing to me.
Well, even
Wow.
when it happened to me, Jeremy, the magistrate told me that this is man 5, 6 years ago. He told me we see this all the time. I'm like, this is
Wow.
crazy. David, there's a problem with people filing fraudulent quick claim deeds at the county level that can make it really hard to determine ownership. Holy cow.
Yeah. I mean that's because that's nothing but a piece of paper. I mean, I think these are
Mhm.
all the issues, but again, it's about what we talked about earlier, acting fast and making sure that as an owner, your documents are efficiently put together. I mean, you got to be able to prove your case when it comes to stuff like that. It's about what you got that can show that this is actually my property when it comes down to those type of things. And I
Mm,
guess and that's anything in life, to be honest with you. I mean, you guys know this. I'm gonna tell you this. Proactively preparing yourself for that day that if there's something we're gonna go wrong, I can open my treasure box. Well, I need to open up to show this is my stuff. This is for me. I have everything in order. There's no way that this is going to happen. So I guess you got, that's just a rule of thumb in anything, to try to make sure you have all your ducks in a row, because there's a lot of pirates out here doing this, stealing real estate, literally. And it's amazing to me. It's amazing.
we got one couple more questions. Jerome says, is there a way to register no trespassing signs to have proof when the sign was posted? That's a good one.
That is a good one. I don't necessarily know about that. I mean, you got me on that one. I don't know if you can register a no trespassing sign, but I think that would be a good idea. I mean, I know one way you can do it, and just on your own, is almost like a poor man's copyright. Just put the sign in your yard, take some pictures of it, and send it to yourself in email, or however you got to do it, that shows the date stamp on when you did it. And
Mm.
now you got to say, look here, it's clearly was there on this day. They were there after this day, so that kind of helps you, a poor man register. But I don't think you can go down to the city, and I could be wrong. I don't know. I think you can go down to the city and say, I got a no trespassing sign in my yard. Well, how can I register this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jeremy, how do people get in touch with you if they need some assistance with any type of matters, real
Oh yeah,
estate
for
matters?
sure. I don't know. I think last time you put the contact information in
Oh yeah, I'll
something.
put it below. I'll put it below. We'll do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yep. I appreciate that for sure.
So, guys, you had your questions here. I know Jeremy's pressed for time. Everybody's moved for time. So, move quickly. See if you can get your phone number registered with the utility company. That's what I'm doing with mine. I'm like, look, I need to know who's moving in and out.
Yeah, but that camera idea was good too. I
The
mean, if you're a rent,
camera,
yeah, if you're a landlord, yeah, I think those cameras would be a good rule of thumb to have. And
yeah,
especially if you're going to be going somewhere for a long period of time, like over months. I mean that's almost a no brainer. I mean that lets you know real time what's happening at your property.
yeah. Quentin, I
Yeah.
didn't see about the woman kicked out of a house. And I'll Google that. I'll Google that one. Okay, round up. Hit that like. Share this information with other people that are. I've seen. And in fact, Jeremy, did you see the lady that was arrested? The owner was arrested in New York.
No, I didn't see that.
The,
We need, was she trying to implement self help or something like that? That sounds like a self help thing.
to
Yeah,
try to
sad.
get the
See,
people out. They arrested
yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't just be running up in there. Before they're gonna let you do it sooner or later.
All right.
All right, Chris. It's always a pleasure, man. Talk to you soon, big
All right.
dog.
Hit that subscribe. See y'all later. Round up. Peace.
All right.
Uh,